11 Rotary clubs from the greater Hartford area who contributed money. It's written in Spanish, and it indicates that the funding for the water system improvements were by them.
So there's the plaque with the name of the different Rotary clubs that have contributed to this project.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, and so where are you at this point in time with this project?
This particular village was completely finished in last year, in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
This other picture, the first one that was on there, the mayor of about 100 different pueblos, was on the left-hand side, and the woman was from BPD. She had to translate because they only spoke Spanish and some Quechua, which is a native language. And the other gentleman was one of the leaders of the village. In this particular picture, the gentleman on the left in the white shirt is Nata, and he is, I guess you could call it the operations director for BPD in Guatemala. He arranges for the design, the engineering, the construction, the purchase of equipment, and the overseeing of the project. And the gentleman on the far right is one of the oldest members of the entire village.
So what's changed now then? All right, the people had a well, okay, and they used to have to walk to go get their water, carry it on pots on their head, bring it back. And I'm pretty sure it was the kids that did that.
It was and the women, and the women, and the mothers, yes.
And they have a unique talent, as most people do in most third world countries, of being able to carry these pots on their head.
Yes.
They start them, when they're very, very young. I'm sure you know that.
A great sense of balance.
Yes. They do, and they give them a little tiny pot to start with, and then they graduate to a bigger pot. So now they don't have to carry the pots, but where does this water go? Is this water clean for them, or?
Yes, the well was tested, and I believe the next slide after this shows the large concrete, they call it a catchment tank, and this is a picture of us standing on it. It holds about 12 to 15,000 gallons. The pipe at the bottom of the picture is the water coming from the well, and we're looking off into the distance about 200 feet lower in elevation where the village is. And that acts as a reservoir and a pressure vessel so that the water then flows downward, and when one opens a faucet at each of the sinks, they then have the fresh water.
Now, is this gravity?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So it's not run by electricity. It's run by gravity. It's a gravity-fed well.
Yes, it is.
I see.
And the next picture shows one of the 52 cast sinks. They're cast, precast concrete that were made using the funds that the Rotarians provided. In the front of the picture, there's a pipe that's coming up, and the water is flowing into the center section. And this is one of the families that was just so delighted to have had this now brought right to their own doorstep, so to speak.
Doorstep, yeah. Now, do several share this these sinks?
From what
you said 52.
There's 52
so it's got to be
families.
More than there are 52.
There are 52 families.
So every family
Each
got
family
a sink?
got their own sink. And one of the other issues is that because they didn't have fresh water for many years, BPD insisted that they put in what are called gray water filters. In this next picture, the water comes out of the sink, and then it goes through a separation process, sort of like, if you will, a septic system, where the oils, the grease, and the soap get separated, and then the water can be recharged back into the soil for plants and so forth. The BPD people then instruct the villagers how to clean the gray water filter to make sure that the elements that are left there are taken out and it works properly. So that there were 4 elements to this project, or 4 parts. One were the sinks, the second is the gray water filters, and the next were clean, new, vented latrines.
And that's not new vented
No, I'm
latrine
afraid to say, we were shocked, and I think most people would be. This is a picture of what their so-called toilet area was like before our project, and it's not very inducive and pleasant. The next picture shows what they were able to do with the money from the Rotary clubs. They bought the concrete blocks, The gentleman who cast those same sinks, whom we met on our drive up to the village, also cast the toilet that you can see in the background in here. It's a concrete one. They're not as comfortable as as ours. And there is a pipe in the back that allows the odors to get vented up through the atmosphere. Now, one of the other important factors here is that each of the village members had to make some kind of a physical contribution. And the men would dig the wells, excuse me, dig the holes for these latrines.
Yes.
They were 5 meters deep, which is close to 18, 19 feet. And then other members would take the concrete blocks, assemble them, and make these vented pit latrines. So that's the third part.
You didn't have them put anything down into the pits then?
No.
No. I see.
It is a bit rustic.
Yeah.
It's like the old outhouses, if you will.
Right. Right.
In our country. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was living in Liberia, we had a pit latrine also, but we would use lime.
Yes.
And cover it with lime.
They might instruct them over time how it has to be properly treated with chemicals. And then I mentioned that there were 4 components. The first 3 that I've just talked about all have to do with really water. The fourth one, we said as Rotarians, if we raised enough money over the $20,000 in the budget, and we did, we would provide enough funds for them to supply each of the 52 families with it's called an O'Neill stove. It's a raised stove that takes what you can currently, how they had been cooking. In this picture, you can see a tortilla pan sitting on an open fire in the corner of the room, and the kids who are little can trip, they can get burned. They're breathing the smoke. The back of this wall you can see is black with soot, so the whole kitchen and cooking area just gets filled with smoke, so they have
respiratory... So they don't cook outside?
No. They have respiratory problems, they get eye infections, irritation. So the next slide, though, shows that same family with the O'Neill stove. It's raised up. It uses actually 1/3 the amount of wood, which makes it even more energy conserving. The smokestack, if you will, the pipe in the back goes up through the roof of these cottages or these little village huts. And for about the first 3 feet out of the stove, there's a mesh piece of wire so the kids can't get burned on it. So those were the 4 components that we funded through this project.
Now, you use the word potable. What does that mean, actually?
It's drinkable. It's usable, drinkable. For human consumption, and does not have to be put through any filtering or chemical process to clean it.
Because I'm sure there are many villages. If you're going to continue in this project, are you going to pick another village?
Well,
or what's the future hold since this one is completed?
Well, I'm glad you asked, and I'm so pleased to say that after this project got completed, it really had a tremendous amount of notoriety and recognition. First of all, after we finished the project, the district governor at that time asked if I would submit the project to Rotary International for what is called a Best Cooperative Projects Award. And I submitted this booklet. And
can I hold this
sure.
up for the camera?
And the entire application for this award included all of the publicity, the process we went through to get clubs involved, how the fundraising took place, the presentation of the money to the people from BPD, etc. And we submitted it to Rotary International, and I found out in later that spring, which was essentially in June of 2007, that this project was selected as the best cooperative project. And meaning cooperative, you're cooperating with another nonprofit organization. And Rotary awarded all of the presidents of the 11 clubs with a certificate, and it was the only project in northeastern United States and eastern Canada to be so designated.